Jim Ruppert and Dave Kane, we're here for Week 1, SJR.com, the Scouting Report. Dave, Week 1 of the high school football season. Let's start with the big game in the South Central Conference. Staunton and Carlinville picked number 1 in their respective divisions. What's going to happen there?
Well, it is an interesting matchup. First week of the season to have two teams clashing this early. Staunton is a program that's just kind of slowly but surely made progress each year. They finally get back in the playoffs last year. They have a 1,000-yard quarterback, Josh Teskey, who is back. They have several running backs, kind of running back by committee type of a deal. I think Staunton definitely has more experience at the skill positions, whereas Carlinville, a very experienced offensive line, some big kids, some speedsters in the backfield, but none of whom were starters last year. They're kind of untested. So,
and a new look on the sidelines.
And Chad Easterday, although he's been an assistant coach there for a number of years, he is the head man for the first time. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think Carlinville is playing at home. I'd probably give Carlinville maybe a slight nod just on the home field advantage, but it should be a good one.
Let's go to another game in the South Central Conference, and that's the return of the prodigal son, so to speak. Gillespie and Hillsboro. Don Borgini back home at Gillespie. Aaron Duff back home at Hillsboro.
Yeah, that's the coaches are really the storyline there. Both of them kind of coming back to their alma maters after successful tenures elsewhere. The matchup itself, Gillespie has struggled in recent years.
Really
I think they were they won a couple games last year. Don Borgini, of course, he's always optimistic to begin with. He has a very large junior class, a lot of returning starters.
Good rebuilder also.
He is just a good rebuilder. The numbers are up at Gillespie quite a bit. Hillsboro, on the other hand, Aaron Duff lost quite a few skill position players from last year. Nolan Ruppert will be stepping in at quarterback. He's a junior this year. He had to step in under fire last year in the playoffs when the starter got hurt. That one, to me, might be a toss-up, only Gillespie does have a little more experience, but they're playing at Hillsboro. Should be a good one.
And let's move over to the Prairie State Conference. We're talking about Don Borgini. His coach in high school at Gillespie was Don Dobrino. Don Dobrino has been at his alma mater, Mount Olive. Don Dobrino, interestingly, is on the school board at Gillespie, if I'm not mistaken,
right,
and helped get his protege hired as the Gillespie football coach. But Girard plays at Mount Olive this week. Mount Olive, a lot of changes, things different at Mount Olive. They've lost a lot of very talented players after 2 great years. Good test for them in Week 1 with Girard.
Yeah, it's a good test. Yeah, because Girard is, I think, kind of on the upswing. The numbers are up for Patrick Bowman, the coach there. Taylor Hayes is his first quarterback he's had in 4 years that's not a freshman or a sophomore. At least he has some experience under center.
Better.
And their numbers are up. So I think they're definitely looking to improve. Mount Olive is still going to be solid, but I think for them to win 11 games again like they had the last couple of years might be a lot to ask. Paul Rademacher is one of the area's top rushers. He is back.
Outstanding player.
But they are replacing a lot of other skill position guys, and they lost some of those big boys on the line. Again, Mount Olive, though, at home, they do know how to win. They might have a slight edge there, but that could be an interesting matchup of two programs kind of going, I don't want to say opposite directions, but they're kind of making changes.
Non-conference with the emphasis on P. Petersburg Porta at Pleasant Plains. Two other teams that have lost big name players the last couple of years. Quarterback on at Pleasant Plains that threw for a lot of yardage. Talk about the Pleasant Plains Porta game, which will be the one you'll be attending.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's a West Prairie Trail Conference interdivision game, I guess you would call it. Both of those teams will go into that Sangamo Conference next year. Both are in rebuilding situations, although obviously Porta is coming off an unbeaten regular season last year. They made it a couple rounds in the playoffs. But they did lose
Their best season ever.
Yeah, exactly. And they did lose a lot of seniors. McCurdy is the new quarterback for them this year. They are still going to be primarily a running team, although they may mix the run and the pass a little more than they have. Plains had David Bergschneider in recent years, a 1,000-yard quarterback. They were very much a pass-oriented team in the past. They are going total opposite this year. Strictly more of a running type of a team this year, so it's going to be a game of contrast. It's just going to maybe boil down to who can fill those vacancies more quickly and who can step up the most.
Biggest week in high school football is the difference between Week 1 and Week 2. Join us next week for our Week 2 analysis of high school football in the State Journal Register area.